Okay. The people of the world cry out in pain as everything costs so much. Gasoline, food, and anything associated with travel. Consistently, as time goes by, politicians are shifting more and more towards green energy. Yeah? Policies inclining more towards green energy. Governments around the world are shifting towards this, primarily in the West, though. Areas like China and India aren't. At the moment, I noticed this a couple of days ago, there have been some protests going on. The Dutch government has made some cleaner air policies, and it's angering farmers. So let's read a little here. Dutch farmers, angered by government plans that may require them to use less fertilizer and reduce livestock, began a day of protests in the Netherlands on Monday by blocking supermarket distribution hubs in several cities. Amsterdam Schiphol Airport and KLM, the Dutch arm of Air France, have advised travelers to use public transport rather than cars to reach the airport, as farmers activist groups said on social media they plan to use tractors to block roads. Several traffic jams were reported on highways in the east, on ferry routes in the north, but none near Schiphol during the morning commute. At the heart of the protests are targets introduced last month to reduce harmful nitrogen compounds by 2030, the latest attempt to tackle a problem that has plagued the country for years. Reductions are necessary in emissions of nitrogen oxides from farm animals, manure, and from the use of ammonia in fertilizers. The government says estimating a 30% reduction in the number of livestock is needed. High-intensity farming of cows, pigs, and other animals has made the Netherlands Europe's leading emitter of substances. Construction and traffic also contribute. Dutch and European courts have ordered the Dutch government to address the problem. Farmers say they have been unfairly singled out and have criticized the government's approach. The let's see. Protest is widely supported by farmer groups, but not centrally organized. I've seen a lot of them. I've seen, let's see, I think it was, they were pouring manure in front of a government building. They were setting piles on the side of the roads on fire. There's been a consistent push for greener policy throughout the world, and it's not as if climate change isn't an issue to a certain degree. In my personal opinion, I am not sure about worldwide climate change. There are definitely effects that all of the emissions that each country is putting off is having on the world. I mean, plastic in the ocean is a major issue. The ocean being one of the primary things that I think that we have to try and keep pollutants out of. But as far as I can tell, air pollutants generally tend to affect a centralized area, meaning, what is it? It gets reabsorbed and put back in. So as air pollutants are put out, they generally get absorbed by moisture in the air, into the clouds, rained back down to the surface. It's not good. So it's still good to control your pollution, even like this. It's better for the people of your area. Yeah. But I'm not sure how much of an effect it has on the world at large. That's not what's important. The reality is that due to certain crises that we have been facing that I think everyone knows about, COVID being the main problem here, though I think it's exposed that these policies do more harm to the people than good. maybe they are doing good for the world itself. However, it is going to consistently have a negative effect on the people. A 30% reduction, let's see, 30% reduction in the number of livestock, that's pretty insane. I mean, as far as it's concerned, we're already having food crisis issues. Yeah, I mean, the Russia-Ukraine food crisis, that's a big problem. But I think the biggest issue is that food prices are going to continue to skyrocket. Like, reducing your livestock amount isn't going to be the only thing that's going to affect food prices. Food prices are going to go up because of gasoline. Gasoline is going up partly because of the war in Ukraine. There are other factors. And I don't really care about anywhere outside of the US, if I'm being entirely honest. But this is just to point out that around the world, policies are being put in place that are hurting the people, the average person, in the name of green energy, in the name of being green. This falls in line with things like shifting away from fossil fuels. And the degree to which things are getting extreme is, in this circumstance, you can see that the Dutch police fired shots at tractor-riding farmers who were protesting against the plans to cut nitrogen emissions on Tuesday evening in northern Netherlands. This, I mean, it's obviously an extreme action. And you can understand why these people would be displeased. You're forcefully taking away their living. But this just shows that they don't care. They just don't care. No, and as from what I read, they haven't even been getting support from the average people, the ordinary citizens. I think people are very disconnected from farming, from where we get our food from. I think the average citizen is. So when things like this occur, they don't see it as an effect on them. To a certain degree, I think that the average person should be more on the side of the farmer than the government, no matter the circumstance, even if it is for the greater good. Because farmers are the key to our survival, through and through. There is our civilization, all the technology that we've built, the cell phones, the thing that the microphone, the computer that I'm sitting here working on right now, none of this matters without food. It doesn't matter how advanced our technology becomes, without the farmers, there's nothing. It doesn't matter how powerful our government is, it doesn't matter how much money we have in our pocket, without food, we're nothing. So the farmers are extremely important. But no matter how hard the farmers work, if gas can't be afforded, then food becomes more expensive, and it, yet again, doesn't matter how much technology we have. If we don't have the food, it won't matter. Looking at this, and seeing the attempts of other countries to shift towards this, and then looking at things like what Biden has done. An example is something like this right here. Joe Biden reportedly exports 5 million oil barrels despite U.S. gas prices. He exported more than 5 million oil barrels from our emergency oil reserves that were released in order to combat sky-high gas prices here at home, according to a report. The U.S. sent the oil, which was taken from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve that the Biden administration tapped into in hopes of getting mounting energy prices under control, to Asia and Europe. The release of around 1 million barrels a day from the SPR through October has had a minimal effect in decreasing the price of oil. At the same time, it has depleted the reserves to their lowest level since 1986. We can look at this and see that, firstly, we've been depleting our oil reserves for quite some time in order to try and have some kind of effect on this, obviously right in front of you, skyrocketing gas prices. This is obviously not the intent of an emergency oil reserve, but this is what it's being used for. A bastardization of what it is. I don't know what they're thinking. If we look at, let's see, some of the things that were said during the early part, which is, let's see. And let's see. Here we go. When Biden was first in office, he signed several executive orders. All manner of various kinds of things, but climate change was one of the executive orders, and one of the things that was done was the cancellation of the Keystone XL pipeline. Look, we can look at another moment like this right here. All of these are adding up to a greater point, but to take a quick look.
I have one final question.
Would he close down the oil industry?
It's false.
Would you close down the
By
oil
the way, I
industry?
would transition from the oil industry, yes. I would
that's a big
transition.
statement.
It is a big statement, because I would stop,
Why would you do that?
because the oil industry pollutes significantly. Here's the deal. But
That's
you
a
can't
big
do that.
statement.
Well, if you let me finish the statement, because it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time, And I'd stop giving to the oil industry, I'd stop giving them federal subsidies. You won't give federal subsidies to the gas, to solar and wind.
The point is that statements like these, in combination with the cancellation of the Keystone XL pipeline, just generally policies from the outset, from the very beginning of the Biden administration, show an unfriendliness towards the fossil fuel industry. It's obvious that there's going to be an increase in gas prices because of just speculation. From my understanding, the oil industry, part of the reason why gas prices were lower is that, in combination with the fact that less people were driving because of COVID, was that the oil industry was prepping for the Keystone XL pipeline and the amount of oil that would be transported through it. The speculation would lower gas prices overall. However, the cancellation, the return of a president who is extremely hostile towards the fossil fuel industry is going to make speculators think gas prices are going to go up. It's things like these that are going to make life for everyone harder. Another point to add to this list on things that could have made life easier for us at this point is the United States. Let's see, where is it at? According to data from the Energy Information Administration, the U.S. was a net exporter of crude and petroleum for 1 week in November. For the week that ended November 30th, the U.S. exported a record 3.2 million barrels per day of crude oil and 5.8 million barrels per day of petroleum products. That marked the first time since 1991 that the country exported more crude and petroleum products than it imported. However, the country is not yet considered, this is an older article, but it said by 2020, it should reach that standard. The U.S. did reach that point. We became a net exporter of oil for a period. We were energy independent. We were in a good position. This isn't to say that there would not have been problems. There would definitely have been increases in the cost of gas even if we were in a strong position. However, we look at our energy independence and the net exportation of gas. Those policies could have carried us far. I'm going to quote one of my favorite game series. There's a time and a place for everything. Sometimes you have to sacrifice the policy positions that you want to hold and the policies that you want to push forward in the face of hard times. It's obvious that the world has been in crisis for some time. it's obvious that things were going to get bad. Were our leaders intelligent with some kind of foresight? And I'm not even sure if foresight was necessary, given the fact that we were actively right in the middle of it. They could have seen that loading so much money into the economy and forcing people to stop working was going to cause problems. Had we continued down the track that we were going, despite the desire and to some need for climate policies, we would have been in a much better position. And I suppose it comes from the secure your own face mask ideal. At a certain point, it's not time to worry about the health of the world as much as it is the time to worry about the health of your people. Things are getting bad. Things are going to continue to get bad. The route that I see things going, I don't see things getting better. We have money problems, energy problems, and we have political problems. We're going to have food problems. Everything piled, stacked. So many issues right on top of one another. Maybe we'd have an easier time dealing with our political differences and problems had our leadership been able to keep us out of this state. Maybe things would have been better. Maybe nothing would have been different. I don't want to make this about left or right and who would win if things would have been better. However, I believe that had Trump won in the 2020 election, we would have been on track towards better than we are now. It wouldn't have put in place these anti-oil policies. Now is obviously a time for those kind of people, the kind of people that don't care about the environment. Sometimes we don't have the luxury to worry about every single thing. But right now, the leadership doesn't seem to care. They're unwilling to revise what they believe, unwilling to revise their policies and shift towards things that may even be contradictory to what they want in order to help us, and would rather ignore the problem, make light of it, even jokes and such, and would rather focus on issues like gun control and Roe v. Wade, as we all sit here unable to afford gas and unable to afford food. Who knows what's going to happen? The Republicans are feckless idiots, incapable of doing anything. The Democrats are just going to continue to push for the kind of policy that's going to make the problems worse. So no matter who wins in the upcoming elections, it's not going to make a difference. I don't know what we can do to pull ourselves out of this spiral. And I think that our chance was way far back in the past. If the American people were willing, would have been willing to accept mean tweets for an easier life, things would be better. We couldn't. And I don't blame the people. 4 years of the media doing nothing but harping on you about how evil the man who leads your country is. Even if you don't believe it, it can get tiresome. Either way, things are probably not going to get better anytime soon. But at least we know why. Thank you.